My name's Jenny Watson and I'm the author of the book for children called Prove It Josh, about an 11-year-old called Josh who lives on a boat with his dad. His dad's a boat builder and he's built him a little sailing dinghy called Nomad, and Josh uses Nomad and sailing as a way of escaping from his issues with dyslexia. So one of my favourite books when I was a kid was called Swallows and Amazons by Arthur Ransom, who's an English author, and the books were set in the Lake District, and they were about 4 kids with a couple of boats sailing through the lakes in the Lake District. And it was Swallows and Amazons was really the first book, the first real book that I liked. So one of the things I wanted to do was to include the book Swallows and Amazons in my book, so that I made that the book that Josh decided that he wanted to read. So Josh and his new friend Dakota watched the movie of Swallows and Amazons, and then Dakota gives Josh the book Swallows and Amazons, and that's one of the things that really gets him excited about learning to read. And the other thing was that my husband was working here at the boatyard, and I thought that this was a really good setting and location, so I sort of combined some of the ideas and things from Swallows and Amazons with the scene that I saw here at the boatyard and things that were going on here. One of the things was that there was a kid here who was living on a boat with his dad, and I had always thought that that would be a fun thing to do. So once I had my outline, I decided to start with a chapter that was sort of in the middle of the story, but it was a chapter that had lots of action and excitement, and I thought that that would be a good one to get started with. So I started with that chapter, and then from there I sort of worked through based on which chapter was most interesting to me to write next. And then after I had 3 or 4 chapters, then I started to think about, well, how was I going to start the story and how was I going to finish the story, and so I sort of went back and filled in bits and pieces as I could see it. So the whole time I was working on the first draft, I was working full time, so I was writing the story in bits and pieces, 10 minutes at a time, in the evenings for the most part, sometimes in the mornings, and it took me about a year to write that whole first draft before I could write the end at the end of the story, and then of course I had to completely rewrite it. So when I finished the first draft, then I joined a critique group online, and then I started working on my second draft, and I posted a chapter at a time every couple of weeks and got feedback on it. But I didn't go back and rewrite at the time. Each time I got feedback, then I tried to apply the feedback that they'd given me to the next chapter and to the next chapter, so that I kept moving forward through the story. And then once I'd got feedback on all of the chapters, then I went back and I tried to incorporate all that feedback right through. So the second draft took me a year as well. So then once I finished the second draft, then I looked at the book as a whole, and I tried to see if the beginning worked and the ending and the middle, and if the structure of the story held together properly. So I wrote a third draft and then a fourth draft, and then I started submitting it. So along the way, I did several classes. Sometimes I did the same class more than once, and so I met a lot of other writers, which was good to know other people in the community and to be able to find a local support network. And I went to several different conferences and learned lots of stuff about craft. So eventually, by the time Prove It Josh was accepted for publication, it had been through 6 or 7 drafts, I think. Once it had been accepted for publication, I thought, that I had it made at that point. But the most challenging part was still to come, because then I needed to work with an editor and actually completely revise the story again so that it would be ready for publication. And so the editor sent me 3 pages of notes and questions and comments. Once I'd gone through the comments and I'd had to talk to the editor about what to do, and then I struggled with how to apply the edits and do the revisions based on a timeline. But finally I had like a date when I had to get it done by, and I had to resubmit it, and now I had the extra pressure of people waiting for it, and people who originally said they liked it and would they like it after I'd made these changes, and trying to apply someone else's vision and merge it with my vision of what the story should be. So was it worth it in the end, you're probably wondering? And it was. I mean, when I held the book in my hands for the first time, it was like, I don't even know what to say. When I held the book in my hands for the first time, it was an amazing feeling that it was something that I had started with just a dream, and that I worked on it for 3 years, 4 years just about at that point, and finally it was done and I could actually hold the book in my hand, and that was awesome.